You're standing at a threshold right now, and the weight of it is pressing against your chest in ways you probably haven't named yet. That low hum of anticipation mixed with unease, the sense that the ground beneath your daily routine has gone soft. These aren't distractions. They're signals. Your nervous system is picking up on something your conscious mind hasn't fully processed, a shift so fundamental that every cell in your body is recalibrating in preparation. Think about the last time you drove toward a mountain range at dusk. Long before you could distinguish individual peaks, you felt the presence of something enormous altering the landscape ahead. The air changes. The light bends differently. You're in that exact zone now, moving toward a transformation that's already started reshaping you from the inside out. The restlessness you've been carrying isn't a problem to solve. It's information. Your inner architecture is outgrowing its current blueprint, and the friction you feel is the sound of old structures straining against new dimensions. Maybe 3 months ago, you started catching yourself mid-sentence, wondering why you were defending a viewpoint you'd held for years. Or you looked at your schedule and felt a strange blankness, as if someone else had written those commitments. These aren't signs of confusion. They're signs of emergence. The part of you that's been dormant, waiting for the right conditions, has started waking up. And waking up is rarely gentle. It's disruptive. It asks uncomfortable questions. It refuses to pretend anymore. You've probably noticed the synchronicities too. A phrase keeps appearing in different contexts. Someone mentions a concept you were just thinking about. You pick up a book at random, and it opens to the exact paragraph you needed. Your rational mind wants to file these under coincidence, but something older and wiser in you recognizes the pattern. Reality is speaking to you in the language of resonance, confirming that you're tuned to a frequency most people aren't accessing yet. This isn't magical thinking. It's what happens when your awareness expands beyond the narrow bandwidth you've been operating on. The hardest part isn't the uncertainty itself. It's the isolation of experiencing something real that you can't adequately explain to anyone else. You might try to talk about it, but the words come out flat, sounding either too vague or too dramatic. So you stop mentioning it. You carry this knowing privately, checking in with it when you're alone, feeling its presence like a second heartbeat underneath your regular life. That private knowing is sacred. It doesn't need external validation. It needs your attention and respect. What you're moving through has a structure, even though it feels chaotic. Human consciousness doesn't evolve randomly. It follows patterns that have repeated across generations, across cultures, across every person who's ever pushed beyond their conditioning into something more authentic. Understanding these patterns won't make the journey easier, but it will make it less lonely. You'll recognize yourself in a lineage of people who chose growth over comfort, truth over convenience. Right now, you're in what could be called the dissolution phase. Everything that once provided stability feels suddenly negotiable. The job that seemed solid now feels like a costume you're wearing. The relationships that anchored you now feel like they're floating alongside you rather than grounding you. This isn't a crisis. This is recalibration. Your priorities are reordering themselves according to a deeper logic than the one that got you here. The old motivators, external validation, security, meeting expectations, they're losing their grip. And yes, that's terrifying, but it's also liberation disguised as loss. Your body knows before your mind does. You might be sleeping differently, dreaming more vividly, or waking at odd hours with thoughts that feel urgent but shapeless. Physical spaces that used to comfort you now feel claustrophobic. You need more silence than usual, or more movement, or different kinds of stimulation altogether. These aren't quirks. They're adjustments. Your entire operating system is upgrading, and the installation process requires resources you didn't know you'd need. Honor the strangeness of it. Your body is smarter than your plans. There's a specific kind of grief that comes with outgrowing a version of yourself. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with a clear storyline. It's the quiet sadness of recognizing that you can't go back to seeing the world the way you used to, even if part of you wishes you could. That innocent confidence you once had, the certainty that came from not questioning things, it's gone. And while your new awareness brings depth and meaning, it also brings responsibility. You can't unknow what you now know. You can't unfeel what you felt. The door behind you is closed, and the only direction available is forward into territory you haven't mapped yet. Most people abort this process right here. They feel the discomfort of the in-between space and decide it's safer to rebuild the old structures, even if those structures no longer fit. They talk themselves into believing the restlessness was just stress or boredom or a phase. They recommit to what they've already outgrown, hoping that loyalty to the familiar will restore their sense of stability. And it might work for a while, but the knocking never really stops. The invitation doesn't expire. It just gets quieter, waiting in the background until you're ready to answer it again. You're not going to do that. Something in you has already decided, even if your conscious mind is still negotiating the terms. You've crossed an invisible line where turning back would cost more than moving forward. The pain of staying the same has finally exceeded the fear of changing. That's the real tipping point. That's when transformation stops being theoretical and starts becoming inevitable. What's waiting on the other side of this discomfort isn't a fixed destination. It's a new way of being that's fluid enough to keep evolving with you. You're not becoming a final version of yourself. You're becoming someone who knows how to transform, who can shed old skins without panic, who trusts the intelligence of their own unfolding. That's a different kind of strength than the rigid determination we're taught to admire. It's the strength of bamboo that bends in the storm, rather than the oak that resists and breaks. The people in your life might not understand what's happening to you. They might interpret your withdrawal as rejection or your questioning as instability. Some relationships will stretch to accommodate your growth. Others will snap. This isn't failure. It's ecology. Not everyone is meant to travel with you through every stage of your life. Some people are there to teach you what you needed to learn in one chapter, and their role ends when that chapter closes. Releasing them with gratitude instead of guilt is part of the maturation process happening inside you. You'll know you're integrating this new level when things that used to feel like effort start feeling like expression. When decisions that used to paralyze you become obvious. When you stop seeking permission or validation for choices that your whole being has already committed to. Integration doesn't announce itself loudly. It settles in quietly, like snow accumulating overnight. You wake up one morning and realize you've been operating from a different center for weeks without noticing the transition. The glimpses of clarity you've been getting, those moments where everything suddenly makes sense for 3 seconds before the fog rolls back in, those aren't teases. They're anchor points. Your consciousness is establishing new coordinates, marking the terrain it's learning to inhabit. Each glimpse leaves a residue, a trace memory your nervous system can reference when the confusion returns. You're building a map in real time, even though you can't see the full picture yet. Trust that the map is forming. Trust that the pieces will connect. There's a particular quality of aliveness that emerges when you stop resisting your own evolution. It's not happiness exactly, though happiness becomes more accessible. It's something rawer and more honest. It's the feeling of being fully present in your own life without the constant background noise of self-betrayal. You're no longer performing for an imaginary audience or trying to fit into a template someone else designed. You're here, in this body, in this moment, participating in the strange and sacred experiment of becoming more yourself.